Welcome to the Kitsap Matters podcast. In each episode, we discuss the people, places, and things that make Kitsap County unique, covering local entertainment, restaurants, business, government, and anything else we find interesting, troubling, or just plain amusing. A brief disclosure, this is a community-focused podcast, not a financial podcast, but sometimes financial topics do arise. And since the host is a licensed financial professional, we have to include the following disclosure in every episode. The strategies and concepts discussed are for educational purposes only and do not represent specific investment, tax, or estate planning advice. Investing carries an inherent element of risk, and it's in everyone's best interest to consult a tax, legal, or investment professional. Kevin Campbell is an investment representative of, and advisory services are offered through USA Financial Securities Corporation, a registered investment advisor located at 6020 East Fulton Street, Ada, Michigan, 49301. Peaks Financial is not affiliated with USA Financial Securities Corporation. Hi, I'm Kevin Campbell, and I'm excited to have Frank Ellerbroek with me today on the show. Frank is a longtime resident of Washington and Kitsap County. He's an avid skier, mortgage broker with Vantage Mortgage Brokers, and a founding member of the Kitsap Executive Association. Frank, thanks for joining me today.
Oh, thanks, Kevin. Great to be here.
Awesome. So now, as we start off every show with, if you're familiar with Peaks Financial, you've probably heard of our sale formula. That's the process that we use that is about the key parts of our financial planning philosophy. So the first four letters of the word formula, as we talk about sale formula, form means something to us. It stands for family, occupation, recreation, and money. It's all about what matters most and what you can control. What's fun about this planning approach is that it also provides a great outline for interviews like this. So today we're going to be delving into Frank's story and what matters most to him. So let's jump into it. Frank, again, thanks for being on the show with me today.
Yeah, it's great to be here.
Awesome. So you're a longtime resident of Washington. Tell me a little bit about you and where you're from and how you ended up here in Kitsap County.
Wow, that's a long story. We'll try to get it down there for
you.
Anyways, yeah.
Reader's Digest version, Frank. Okay, come on.
Yeah, my mom's side of the family's from Mason County, so I grew up out of probably Mason County, North End up in Grapeview area. But migrated my way into Kitsap County after I graduated and got into being a mortgage broker actually many years ago, about 26 years ago with Olympic Northwest Mortgage.
Oh, so you're pretty young when you started in the mortgage
I was pretty
world.
young. I was about 30 years old.
Okay,
yeah,
30. Yeah.
About 30.
I forget how old you are. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry. Can't ask those questions, right?
No. Right. Yeah. Hey, this is an interview. I can ask those questions.
Exactly.
Right. I was not a job interview.
Yeah,
it is an interview.
Right.
It's just not a job interview.
Yeah.
Right. Awesome. And so tell me a little bit about, you mentioned your mom. Tell me a little bit about your family life, and family now.
Yeah, I'm married to my wife of coming up on 26 years here.
Congratulations.
Laura, and we've got two boys. One is attending Washington State University. He's going into his second year there, which is great. We have another one that works for Puget Sound Naval Shipyard, and it's currently TDY over in Georgia right now. So
awesome.
He's doing great. So we're very fortunate to have just a great family. Our boys are doing very well, and we've got some extended family out around the state here and there.
Awesome.
Yeah,
that's great. That's wonderful to hear your boys are on a good path.
Yes.
That's all. I know that's always like a huge yeah. As you think about like being a dad, like what was your favorite part? And we just had Father's Day, right?
Yeah.
What is your favorite part of being a father?
I think sharing a lot of experiences with my boys has been probably the biggest thing. We were very fortunate to start getting them up to Crystal Mountain and RVing up there quite often, bringing them up there and raising them up on the ski slopes. And they kind of grew up on the mountain when they grew up. Also, getting them into Boy Scouts, being very active in Boy Scouts. Both of them became Eagle Scouts.
That's awesome.
So that was a very proud father moment. The fact
that's
that
a lot of work.
It's rare that two out of the two boys can do that, but that's really good. And just a lot of outdoor experiences, being part of their life and showing them experiences versus the phone, which is kind of the thing now that is we always want to look at and say, boy, if we just get them off the phones. And I was just very fortunate to share a lot of experiences with them.
That's great. Two Eagle Scouts, that's not only a lot of work for them, that's a lot of work for you.
Yes.
I was involved in scouting as well, and I know the amount of work it is for the parents.
Yes, well. That's the graying and the thinning.
Right.
That kind of helped that.
Yeah, you look great for 42.
Thank you.
So that's awesome. That's awesome. So now, as you think about the professional path you chose going into the mortgage world, was there anybody in your family, parents, grandparents, anything that kind of had any influence or direction over you as far as what direction you went in your career?
Going to some college, and it seemed like the advisors never really had a finger on me,
Right, yeah.
And I kind of moved around on some different things. And finally, one day I realized I'm an entrepreneur.
Right.
And so
they don't quite know how to deal with us.
They don't know how to deal with an entrepreneur, and they want to put you in this certain category and get you educated behind that category. So I changed a lot of my when I was in community college and things like that. I changed a lot of everything over to business, and because I thought that was going to best serve me, especially being an entrepreneur. And one day I had a close friend basically say, hey, mom owns a mortgage company. You should come down. I think you'd be a great mortgage representative. And within a few days and weeks, I was buried in books learning to be a mortgage professional many years ago. And all of a sudden I found myself in it. Loved it because of not only being an entrepreneur, really I realized I got to help people with financial solutions and also help them get into their homes.
Yeah.
And to me, that was
a huge thing.
Huge thing. And I always thought it was just like, okay, just about getting people in homes or getting a refinance done. But what I soon realized is that by working with CPAs and financial advisors, that we all are integrated. And what they do in that mortgage could greatly affect what you're able to do with them.
Right.
And the same vice versa. And I realized that the mortgage is really part of their overall financial plan.
Absolutely.
And so I dove deeper into that as I got into my career, being more of an advisor in the mortgage space, where the mortgage was the end product. But really what I was giving to my clients was really the advice on that front end of things, and then finding the right product and making sure we were able to get a competitive price on that product for my clients.
Yeah, it's hugely impactful, especially for if you're looking at the first-time home buyer coming through or something like that, who have no idea what they're doing.
Correct.
They've got zero clue, and they're just really generally hoping that they can get approved, right? And I'm guessing a lot of times not sure if they'll be able to. Right?
Well, that's the biggest fear for a lot of them is, am I going to be able to get approved? And the only question it seems like most people only know how to ask by engaging with a mortgage person is, what is your interest rate?
Right.
And it's such a loaded question because there's so many variable programs, so many variables that go into an interest rate structure. But really, we got to dive down into what do we need to do to fit within your mortgage, your overall financial plan that's going to be right mortgage for you. And that's typically what we got to first find out. And then once we find that out, then we start to wrap everything else around it.
Well, so this is a great segue, because my last question on the family side was about your professional path, and now we're sitting here talking about occupation, right? Which is our next pillar here that we're going to hit. So with that, and we're talking about mortgages and interest rates. Now, you recently made a change in where you were working. And if I remember, part of that was so that you could have access to more products. So when somebody says, what's your interest rate? Now, as a mortgage broker, I'm sure it's even a harder question to answer than it was previously, when because you have so many solutions available to you now as a broker. Is that correct?
That's correct. There's a big difference when you are working with a retail loan officer or a bank versus a mortgage broker. That retail loan officer working for a big company or working for a bank, they've got their company's interest rates in front of them. That's their interest rates, and they only can give you what they've got or what their company's offering them. And so being a broker allows us to work with over 35 wholesale lenders out there to where we can actually shop that loan. And mortgage brokers have much less margins, so typically our interest rates and our pricing structures are just way better than, say, the retail or the banking space out there. So I already knew I was a good loan officer. I already know I can close a loan. I already knew I was giving great advice to people. So by making that move, being back into being a mortgage broker, now I'm able to not only give good advice, help my clients and close a mortgage very efficiently, but now I'm able to also give them a great price.
Yeah. And I know you and I have worked on jointly on a client or two.
Yes.
And I thought it was really cool. It's like, obviously, as a financial advisor, I know quite a bit about mortgages. Yeah. But it's always surprising when you and I are working together, when I realize, okay, I think I know mortgages and I don't, right? It's like, I have a very high level overview of them.
Yes.
Because I'm not a mortgage person. But obviously, it's a huge part of the financial plan, and that's very cool for me as an advisor to be able to go, hey, Frank, I need some help on this. How do we make this solution work for the client? That's very cool.
Yes.
So, I was about to ask, my next question was going to be about what do you enjoy most about it, but I think you kind of already answered that.
Yeah, you heard it right there. Helping people, finding those solutions, and but at the end of the day, getting that first-time home buyer into their first home, I would say, is probably one of the biggest satisfactions in my business. It is incredible. It's such a road that they undertook, and then they got there, and then you get to call them up that day and let them know that, hey, your mortgage is funded. They're going to be getting the keys to you real soon. Nothing beats that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As you're sitting here talking about that, flashing back through my head is the first time we bought a house, our first time house that we bought, and I remember being excited and absolutely terrified.
Yes.
All at the same time. I'm like, oh my God, what have I done? I'm adulting. This is adult stuff now.
This is real.
Yeah, this is real. And so it's exciting, and it's terrifying, and it's scary, and it's emotional. So that's awesome. So what do you think is the biggest misconception about what you do? What do you think that, like, when I know you said a minute ago, like, people are focused on just interest rate, but what do you think people have a misconception about you as a mortgage broker, or about your industry as a mortgage broker?
Well, I think a couple things. I think the biggest misconception about working with a professional in the industry, whether they're a broker or in the retail world, by working with more of a fiduciary or an advisor, someone that's really looking at your loan application and asking those additional questions about your overall finances to make sure we're not missing anything, to make sure we're not structuring a loan incorrectly. Some people will pull more money out than they need to pull out. We can show them how to restructure it to where it's going to save them money by not putting as much of a down payment down. So that misconception of that we just go get the loan, that, hey, I want a 30-year fixed loan, and we run out and grab it, here it is. Getting those additional pieces of information from our clients and being able to structure that loan based around their overall financial plan is huge. The other misconception too, I think, in the brokerage world is that maybe we can't close those mortgages as fast, or maybe we don't have as good as customer service, but I think that's completely a wrong misconception. The fact is that we can close them just as fast as any retail lender, any bank can close them. The other misconception too, I think, would be, you're going to sell my loan. And we have to look at it this way, and I think this is a big thing. When a client comes to us and we're getting them a 3/8 to 0.5% better interest rate on a loan, that's a substantial amount. That could be several $100s a month in payment. And I have
Which is thousands over the lifetime of the loan.
Thousands over the lifetime of the loan. And so I always have to tell my client, even the lenders that say they don't sell very many of the loans can sell their loans.
Yeah, right.
In the mortgage broker world, the wholesaler may sell your loan a little quicker on that first go around, but is that worth it? The fact that you may have to write the check to someone else in the near future, worth saving that extra few $100s a month or thousands over the life of the loan? Yeah. And so I think that's a big misconception, that they don't like the fact that maybe their loan may be sold right away to a different lender.
And the reality in today's world is that I would suggest that it's, in this day of mergers, not just selling the loan,
yes,
but of mergers and consolidation within financial services industries and things like that, I would actually say it's probably a relatively low likelihood that if you buy a 30-year mortgage right now, even if that lender says, hey, we're never selling your loan, they may get sold, meaning their company may get sold to somebody else. I would say it's probably a relatively low chance that they're going to have that same lender for 30 years.
Correct, especially in today's world where some of these larger mortgage banks that have servicing right now, they may need to free up capital. So they're going to be selling off some of that servicing. So there's never, ever 100% guarantee, unless you work with a bank that has a portfolio product that they keep. Yeah. And at that point, that's when you can guarantee that they'll keep it.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
How do you see your profession changing over the next 20 years, if at all? Do you see it changing much? Do you think it'll look different 20 years from now than it does now?
Oh, boy, it constantly changes. And I think our industry continues to change at a rapid pace. I see AI coming in. I see streamlining coming in a lot more, where platforms are allowing for documentation to come in once we get access to things. So I see the streamlining of the mortgage process continuing to improve over time. I still think we're going to need individuals like me around because no matter what, talking to a computer is going to get you there. In fact, mortgages have been around for a very long time online. And,
yeah.
and most people, when they think about it, it's the biggest financial decision they make in their lifetime, undertaking that large of a debt. And do they really want to go on a computer and just think they have all the answers and fill that out? So I think they still need a mortgage advisor to catch those questions once again to make sure we're structuring that loan correctly in their financial plan.
Something you used the term earlier, fiduciary, right? And
Correct.
that's important. And, in some of the interviews we've had here on the Kitsap Matters podcast, we talk about the fiduciary responsibility, and also a theme that's been coming up lately is stewardship.
Yes.
Right, and it's very much of being a steward, and those two equate relatively well. Being a fiduciary, meaning that you can only do what's in the best interest of your client, and stewardship is those are two very common themes that we're talking about lately. And I think it ties back to what you were just saying, because you can't get that. I mean, you can get technical fiduciary from a technology platform, right? Because it can be compliant.
Correct.
But you're not going to. It has what AI lacks is it has artificial intelligence. It has zero emotional intelligence, right? It can't replicate what a human does. So I think your industry and mine are very similar in that standpoint. That I think AI will have a place in it. I don't see it. What I see it doing is enhancing what we're doing.
Correct.
And helping streamline some of the things that we're doing, and maybe helping, with some repetitive or time-consuming tasks. But I don't see it necessarily replacing the human element.
No, not at this time. It's too much.
Yeah, it is too much.
It's not going to ask the right questions.
Right.
Yeah.
And absolutely. There's no relationship there.
Exactly.
So one thing, let's talk about schedule real quick. So like if anybody was thinking about going into the mortgage world, what's a day look like? Do you have a lot of flexibility in your time and place? And
yeah, we have a lot of flexibility. I mean, we do a lot of different things. We are marketers. We are the people that do the Facebook posts. We are the ones that, make sure the loan's being tracked on, making all the communication, doing all those things. So we have to manage that schedule, but there's a lot of flexibility, and that flexibility is why I have stayed in this industry for this long. Because
because you're in a very entrepreneurial role.
Exactly. And it gives me a lot of flexibility. I was able to go to all my son's football practices, football games, go to all my kids' baseball games. So that flexibility allowed me to do the things that were important with my family, along with the ability to actually earn income to support my family.
Yeah, awesome. So speaking of schedules, let's go into the next topic, which is recreation. So I know you're an avid ski bum. And how much time are you spending on the slopes these days?
Well, do I have to tell everybody?
No, we don't. No.
Actually,
I know you're an avid skier, so
yeah.
I mean, is that
well, during COVID, I mean, we were lucky to have actually an RV lease spot at Crystal Mountain, Washington, so we were able to get anywhere from usually 40 to 60 days a year.
Nice. That's awesome.
Skiing and I just go up there on a Friday, but I was lucky the fact that I can work remotely, so I can work on a Friday remotely and still get a couple hours in up there. But I love it. It's a passion of mine. I like being outdoors. I love being in the mountains. I did some mountain climbing with the Scouts. I was ahead of their mountaineering of their program for that, so we did a lot of climbs with the Scouts.
I have to ask, when we were doing some show prep background on you, there was something about climbing Mount Rainier, some type of a fundraiser or something?
Yeah, 2007, I climbed Mount Rainier for the YWCA shelter, and so I raised about $12,000 for them about that time, and climbed Mount Rainier, and I got to climb a lot of other mountains prepping up to that, which was exciting.
That's awesome. That's quite an accomplishment.
Yeah, a lot of fun. Now you get to look at it and say, okay, I've done that.
Right? Been there, done that?
Yeah.
I've seen Rainier from an airplane. Yes. I'm guessing it's not the same. So awesome. What other than skiing? What do you find when you're not doing these things? What do you? So you've said you did a lot of skiing with your boys, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Are you still doing that? What do you like doing with your family? And what are you doing other than skiing?
Yeah, we're anything camping. So I'm a backpacker. We have car camping, which we do rarely anymore, but we have an RV, so we do a lot of RVing. In fact, I got a backpack I'm going to be getting on here real soon. Love getting outdoors and unplugged. Then I love to hit that golf ball too and chase that around also.
Yeah, we keep talking about that.
Yeah, exactly. So get me outside, get me in the outdoors, get me adventure. I love adventure, and those are the things that really kind of feed me. And I'm lucky to have a family that kind of does a lot of those same things with me.
And we live in a wonderful place for outdoor adventure.
Exactly.
That's what we live in a giant playground here at Kitsap County. The Olympic Peninsula, Washington. This whole region of the country. Is wonderful for that. That's the reason we live here. That's the reason we moved here.
It's unbelievable. I lived here all my life, basically in this area, and it took me almost to my 40s before I started doing hiking and backpacking and climbing up in the Olympics over there. And I started doing. I go, why wasn't I doing this years ago? So I would tell anybody, get out there earlier than later and enjoy what we have here. It's just incredible.
It's stunning. It's gorgeous.
It is
beautiful.
Incredible.
It's a wonderful, wonderful place. I get the question asked a lot of, okay, so what brought you to Washington State? And I just kind of do that and go look around, man. It's the I love the water. I love being around the water. I also love the mountains and the outdoors. And it's like there's only one region of the United States where the mountains meet the sea.
Yeah,
right?
it's in the Northwest.
It's here, and it's just amazing. It's awesome. So let's talk about money for a sec. So, actually, something we need to back up to that we just kind of jumped straight from occupation into recreation. Kitsap Executive Association. Let's talk about that for a sec. So
let's talk about the guy that decided that this would be a good idea.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah,
all right.
Yeah. So guilty as charged.
No.
So you have been a key member, very key, in launching the Kitsap Executive Association, and so I had Andre on the show. And we were talking about the launch, and he was saying that that I was the catalyst of this, and I've said it before, is that the best thing I did was get the right people in the room, and you and Andre and Katie have all been just amazing to work with on this launch, and I'll say you have been just a huge piece of the bylaws and everything we've been doing, because you have had so much experience in this area of running and creating business networking groups. So thanks for that. You've been awesome. But you want to talk about KEA for a minute? What's going on there and what you're hoping to see out of that?
Well, I'm excited about it. We've been doing a lot of heavy lifting over the past 6 months.
Yeah.
A lot of heavy lifting, and I think our initial launch event was just a really successful event, and I believe just being able to go from that launch event to potentially having our very first meeting within the next month is a huge step for us. And I really do see Kitsap Executive Association as being the premier networking group in this county that people are really going to say, I wish I was a part of that one. Yeah. And I think it's going to create a lot of success for its members, and I really look forward to seeing what it does over the next couple of years.
It's going to be an exciting time. It's been a lot of work for all of us, and I think it's going to be a significant economic catalyst within Kitsap County.
Yeah, and it'll be talked about too. Yeah.
I think so. Like on a podcast, perhaps.
Like on a podcast.
Yeah. Awesome. So I just wanted to make sure that we covered a little bit about Kitsap Executive Association while we're here. So let's shift to money real quick. The last. Remember, we're going family, occupation, recreation, money. As we talk about money, who or what have had the biggest influences on your financial life?
Gosh, you know what? Personal growth and coaching as far as the financial life. I was very fortunate within about the first 2 years of getting into the mortgage industry. I got connected with Buffini and Company, just a real fledgling coaching company back then in the day. And
what did you say?
Buffini and Company, yeah, is
not familiar with that.
Yeah, and they're out of California,
Gotcha.
but they are one of the leading coaching companies for real estate professionals out there today.
Interesting. Okay.
And I was very fortunate to get coached, and they really did have a holistic view on money, life, business, all those things as far as those goals go. And I personally dived into reading a lot. Richest Man in Babylon, The Greatest Salesman. I became a student of money to understand it further because I was in the mortgage industry. I wanted to understand it even further. And so I was very fortunate to do a lot of self-help and growth over that period of time, along with having a coach. And that's what kind of got me on the money tracker, being able to realize what I need to do financially and how to best help my clients financially with mortgages, and working again with other professionals like you. Awesome.
So when you think of the word retirement, what comes to mind? Like, are you, I talk about this a lot, that people tend to fall into a couple of different categories. Already retired, which I know you're not. some people have, that date in mind of I'm on a count. I actually have one client who has a countdown timer going on his phone, right? With years, days.
That's a good idea.
Right? So, and then there's other people like me. I don't really have any intention to retire. I've kind of got a goal. Did you ever watch that television show that had William Shatner in it called Boston Legal?
No.
No? So it's a funny show. It was on like a decade or so ago. And in this show, William Shatner plays it's all about attorneys. And I think the other guy's James Spader, the guy from Blacklist. I think he was in that as well. I think that's his name. Okay. Anyways, funny show, very funny show. But William Shatner has, if I remember correctly, he has Alzheimer's, right? But he still puts on his suit and comes to work every day. And he just creates a trail of chaos wherever he goes. That's my aspiration, right? I want to be the old guy, where to the point where like nobody actually lets me manage anything, but I still come into the office.
They're just picking up the pieces behind you.
Right, exactly.
There you go.
Just come in and create chaos and all that kind of stuff. So I want to be the old guy doing that. So personally, I don't have any real intention of retiring. It's not a goal. I have spent many years very consciously building a life that I don't feel like I need to retire from.
Yeah.
Tell me what's your take on retirement? Are you going, hey man, I'm punching out at X year, or are you kind of the same way I am, going, someday when they run me off, I'll probably retire, but that's kind of my goal. Is like until they tell me, hey Kevin, you got to go away.
I think it's kind of a hybrid of that. Is my thought. I'm looking at definitely continuing to work for a while, and probably to my mid-60s or just a little bit later than that. But
so next week?
Yeah. Right.
I'm kidding.
Yeah. Cut.
Yeah.
Anyways, no, at least hard for another, let's say 10 years. Let's go that route. There we go.
Okay. That's a decade at least.
Let's go for another decade. There we go. But I'm very fortunate in this industry that working in it. By that time, it could be 36, 37 years in the industry. I have a very deep database of relationships and clients that have worked with me and trust me and know me. And so I can see myself bleeding off to where I'm not marketing. I'm not out there pushing outward marketing, pushing for things.
Making Facebook posts.
Doing all that stuff. What I see myself doing is just backing down to the point of helping the people that need my help.
Nurturing the clients.
Just they call me up, they need some help or need to buy a house, or their grandchild. That's a good one when you have a grandchild and you help them buy their first house. That'll be a really good one. But you help them. That's what I kind of see myself doing. Is just I worked so hard in this industry for so long. Why don't I take some of that extra business near the end and until I get tired of it? And who knows how long that'll be.
It's an interesting thing you bring up. I've talked to people about this before too, because I'll actually have clients who are concerned about me retiring. They'll say, well, gosh, when are you going to retire? I'm concerned that I'm going to lose you. And I'm like, look, I have known I'm going to be around for a long time. But because part of it too is there comes a point where when you have been doing something for as long as perhaps we have, that you're kind of at a level of mastery, and it's like, I'm at the top of my game. Why would I punch out, right? I'm
correct.
I've spent many years and countless hours getting as good as I am at what I do. Why would I quit now? Right?
Yes.
It's like kind of like like hanging up your guns at the top of your career. It's kind of, to me, it's almost a disconnect. It doesn't make sense to me to go, hey, I've spent my whole life getting this good, so now that I'm here, I'm going to stop.
Yes. And I'm very fortunate in our industry because after COVID, it allowed our industry to be remote.
Yeah.
I could literally work from everywhere. Mm-hmm. And so with that flexibility, going into my later 60s or looking at retirement, I can still kind of plunk along and do some work out there, and it doesn't matter where I'm at. Yeah. We
refer to that here internally as the work optional lifestyle.
There we go.
And I think we're seeing a lot of that happening these days, where I don't necessarily, now it's one thing if you're swinging a hammer or you're doing something very physical, but for a lot of us who are in careers like yours and mine, I think a lot of people, it's not so much about retirement as it is about freedom of time and place.
Correct.
That's what people really want, is freedom of time and place. Hey, if I can still take the trip to Europe and still make an income and still work, why would I not do that?
Yes, exactly.
But it I guess it depends on what you're doing, right? If you're climbing scaffolding at 65 years old and swinging a hammer, that might be a different story. But for us, freedom of time and place is something that you're right. There are actually some positives that came out of the pandemic.
Correct.
There's some serious negatives that came out of it too, but there's
absolutely,
but there's a few positives. Awesome. So what haven't we covered? So you and I are both, you're in the mortgage side, I'm on the finance side. Both of us are kind of technically in the financial services world, right?
Yes.
What, from your perspective, what do you think is wrong with the financial services world, and what can be done to better improve it?
In your world?
Well, our world, right?
Yeah.
Because I tell you, like personally, I kind of have a love-hate relationship with our industry.
Yeah.
Right. Because there's as we've talked about, there's so much good you can do. The things that we do, that you and I both do, can make a huge impact to people's lives. But there's also people out there that are not doing it right and can make huge impacts in people's lives, but not necessarily in a positive fashion.
Exactly.
So what do you think? Obviously, the fiduciary standards, things like that, are becoming much more stringent in our world. What do you think that we can do better as an industry?
Well, our industry is becoming so regulated over time and still continues that way. And I still think you have the bad actors out there.
Yeah.
And just like you probably in your industry, you have the bad actors out there. And I guess the thing that can happen in our industry, I'd like to see a little bit more, see the CFPB or seeing some more governance come out there to catch some more of these bad actors out there. I'd like to see that a little bit further. I'd like to see our industry raise its standards a little bit, as far as my industry, where we have a fiduciary standard out there. That would be a wonderful thing to make our industry a little bit better overall. We can say we're a fiduciary, but we don't have a fiduciary technical standard that we have to follow.
You're not required to be.
You're not required. But technically, when you look at a broker, because we do shop your loan, we get paid the same no matter what. And so we are truly a fiduciary looking for the best interest rate, which is a good thing. Your industry, I think, has a lot more fiduciary standard.
Oh, yeah.
Way more than ours does. So really it becomes, at the end of the day, are you really looking at the client's best interest, but how do you service that client? And there's a lot of advisors or people in our industry that just take the money and run, and very little communication, very little caring about really helping those clients meet their goals. And I think that can always be cleaned up a little bit further. The good thing though is I have me out there in these industries doing a great job. So I like to be a little separated from maybe some of those bad actors out there, knowing that I'm on the right side of the fence and people can seek me out or seek like your services out.
Yeah. In my world, there are the financial services on the financial advisement side. There are unfortunately still two different standards that are being utilized. One is the fiduciary standard, and the other one is the suitability standard, which is much less stringent than the fiduciary standard. And I firmly believe that there should be one standard, and it should be the fiduciary standard. The suitability standard, meaning it's suitable for you. It may not be the best thing for you, but it's suitable. Yeah. That needs to go away, and we'll see a lot of improvement, I think, in the world of financial services when that eventually happens. And it's coming. It is every year. It's getting more and more that direction. So that's coming. Okay. Best kept secret in Kitsap County?
Oh, I got a few of them out there.
What do you think is now one you're willing to share on a podcast, right?
Exactly.
Because like some people might go, my absolute best kept secret, I'm not giving up.
No, I'm not going to. I have no problem giving this one. I think this is one of them, and it just because there's a lot of them out there, a lot of wonderful best kept secrets in Kitsap County. But seeing how it's getting hot out, there is one. If someone has not gone down to Illahee State Park on a low tide and grabbed a lawn chair with their cooler and an umbrella and things like that and walked down the beach towards the south, you'll find one of the best little sandy beaches you can only get to from the beach at Illahee State Park.
And at low tide?
You can do it on a high tide. It makes it a little tougher. So you want to get out there when the tide's going out. So you have some time to get out there.
And get back in before it comes in?
And just spend some time and watch it. Make sure you can get back. And it's not going to be a hard way to get back. But just a beautiful little spot to go hang out on the beach and nobody's there.
I hadn't heard of that one yet.
See?
Yeah, perfect. Yeah. Okay.
Watch the boats go by.
Yeah, right. Yeah, awesome.
Illahee State Park, yeah.
Very cool. Let's see. I think we've covered family, we've covered occupation, we've covered recreation, we've covered money. We talked about the Kitsap Executive Association. We've thrown some insults at each other.
Yes.
It's been like our normal
I still
meetings.
think you look older than I do.
Oh man, that's just rough. It's rough. I can't remember what the difference is.
I'm not going to tell anybody because you keep bringing it up.
Right? Yeah. Okay, Frank, thanks a lot for being on the show.
You're welcome. It's great to be here.
It's been a pleasure. Where can people find out more about you?
To find out more about me, just go to my website, www.frankellerbroek.com.
And how do you spell Ellerbroek?
Ellerbroek.
Because I always want to put two O's in it, so that's why I thought you'd have you specify.
A little trick there.
Yeah. And with Vantage Mortgage Brokers. So awesome. Thanks so much for being here with me. Thanks for everything you've done with me on the Kitsap Executive Association. I think the best thing I did and the best decision I made is, as we started this, was getting the right people in the room to help me build it. Yeah. And you've been a heck of a partner, so thank you so much.
You're welcome. And it takes someone special like you to get these people together. So
Pretty cool.
There we go.
All right, that's another wrap for the Kitsap Matters podcast. Frank, thanks for being here.
Yes.
A brief disclosure, this is a community-focused podcast, not a financial podcast, but sometimes financial topics do arise. And since the host is a licensed financial professional, we have to include the following disclosure in every episode. The strategies and concepts discussed are for educational purposes only and do not represent specific investment, tax, or estate planning advice. Investing carries an inherent element of risk, and it's in everyone's best interest to consult a tax, legal, or investment professional. Kevin Campbell is an investment representative of, and advisory services are offered through USA Financial Securities Corporation, a registered investment advisor located at 6020 East Fulton Street, Ada, Michigan, 49301. Peaks Financial is not affiliated with USA Financial Securities Corporation.